You're here with your DRF race of the day for Sunday afternoon. The race of the day is at Santa Anita Park. Race number 4, pretty early on the card, is a stakes race for Cal-bred older fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. The Spring Fever, $100,000 purse. It's a 6-furlong race on the main track. Here is your field for the Spring Fever. Don't forget to scan that QR code if you want access to this race on your mobile device. Only, as you can see there from the entry card, short field here, only 5 entered. And we're going to have what I suspect will be a pretty clear-cut favorite when this race when post time comes up for this race, because the 5 Taming the Tigress is a filly who 2 starts back ran in the Betty Grable, another Cal-bred race for filly and mare sprinters, and ran really, really well in that race, to just miss by a head to a filly named Fun to Dream. Fun to Dream came out of that race to win a Grade 1 and a Grade 2 race, both with 90-plus Beyer speed figures. And Taming the Tigress really gave her a fight in that race after making the lead. I suppose if she runs another race like that back in this field, as she goes turf to dirt again, as she did in that Betty Grable, if she runs as well there in here as she did there, I mean, I guess she's going to be tough to beat. This is, you know, a little bit of a confusing race as far as form goes, if only because 4 of the 5 fillies or mares entered in this race have made their most recent start on either turf or synthetic. The only horse whose most recent start was on dirt is the number 2 Doris May, who just ran in the Grade 3 Las Flores and finished 3rd. So almost everybody in here is switching surfaces. That being said, all of those fillies who have run on other surfaces in their most recent starts have also all run really well on dirt in the past. So I don't really feel like you're supposed to concern yourself too much with the surface switches in this race. I guess we'll see how all that plays out. And again, it just feels like Taming the Tigress, if she can run back to that Betty Grable. I guess she's tough in here. I don't think it necessarily means this is a race where you just have to take her and see what happens, because she's not exactly a standout on paper otherwise. And there are some other interesting things about her rivals in this race. Let's start out with the Timeform US pace projector. You know, we'll see. I can't disagree with the blue bar situation. I suppose this pace could be relatively modest. It's not a big field. The number 3, Chancery Way, is a filly who likes to go forward in her races. You can just see that from her PPs. She's made 5 starts so far. She's won 4 of them. She was on the lead every single time. And 2 of those races are on dirt, and she won both of those. So, yes, certainly it feels like her best chance in this race is to try to make the lead, and maybe she'll be able to do it. She does have plenty of speed early in her races. The 2 Doris May, however, is another horse who also likes to be forward. She's very lightly raced. Her most recent start was that Grade 3 Las Flores. She was contesting the pace that day in a Grade 3 before finishing 3rd. I suspect that she's going to go forward in this race as well. We'll see if they hook it up or if they just decide to, you know, play a little game of chess up there. The other 3 do feel like they're most likely to sort of fall in somewhere behind those 2, but I don't feel that they're going to be that far away. And I didn't think necessarily being on the lead was going to be a huge advantage in this race. The number 1, Alice Marble, I think is a really interesting horse in this race. She hasn't run on dirt in over a year. Her last dirt start actually came in December of 2021. All 6 starts since then have come on the turf, and she's obviously a very good turf horse. She's won 2 stakes races during that time. She's Grade 2 place during that time. She won sprinting. She won going a mile. She's made 2 starts since coming back off of a May layoff, and she's run fine in both of those races. Finished 3rd both times, but there's nothing wrong with those performances. She's back to dirt here, 3rd off of the layoff, and as you can see from her past performances, she is 3 for 3 on dirt in her career. And I know it's been a long time since she's been on this surface, so maybe things have changed in the interim. But if she comes back and in the form that she was in the last time that she was on dirt and runs as well as she did in those races, I think she's a major player in this race. Particularly those 2 starts off the layoff as a 4-year-old back in 2021. She broke her maiden off of a layoff in April of 2021, a race where the pace wasn't that fast. She came into the stretch with a little bit of work to do still with a leader clear in front of her, and she came with a really good finish to run that horse down. And then she came back in her next start a couple of months later and did the same thing. She wasn't as far away, but she came with another really big finish, just steamrolled a clear leader in the stretch and was clear under the wire. I really like both of those performances. She's made 1 dirt start since then and won that race as well. That was also off of a layoff. She's got 2 starts under her belt now. She's coming back to dirt here, and she's going to have to maintain her form. But I think if she does, she's a really dangerous horse in this race. Doris May, is a horse who's just so lightly raced that I just feel like you want to, stay positive on her at this point. 2 for 4 in her career. She came back off of a really, really long life. Only got in 1 start as a 2-year-old, then missed a ton of time. Did not race didn't race until the end of last year as a 3-year-old, and came back with 2 wins right off the layoff. One of those on dirt, one of those on turf. They ran her in the Las Flores last time. She contested the pace and just couldn't quite get control of that race. I think the main downside of that performance is not only that she didn't hold on in the stretch after it felt like she got to a short lead, it's that the horse that she was contesting the pace with was the horse that finished second. That horse was 26-1 in there and wound up out finishing her at the end after the winner came and ran by both of them. She ran fine in there, but she didn't run great, even though it was a grade 3 race. I'm not necessarily sure that this race is that much easier for her, but she's very lightly raced and she has speed. The number 3 is Chancery Way. Maybe she makes the lead in here. As we talked about in the Open, 5 starts so far, 4 wins, 1 second. They've run her on dirt twice. She's won both of those races. They were on the fair circuit, Pleasanton and Sacramento, not against horses that are as good as the horses she's running against here. But she's third off the layoff, just like the horse down on the rail here, Alice Marble. She's third off the layoff in this race. She's cutting back from a mile after failing to hold a stretch lead on the all-weather surface at Golden Gate last time. She handles dirt fine. Maybe she makes the lead in here and makes this field pay. Another one, I kind of felt like it was a tough race for her, but she's lightly raced and it could certainly improve. Eddie's New Dream is the 4, another horse who has spent most of the last year or so on the turf courses, running fine in those races. Won a couple of stakes races on the grass. She's also taken on grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 company in that span. She's kept really, really good company in her races. She's won 4 times on turf, but she's also won twice on dirt. You have to go way back to 2021 to get to her, her dirt wins, and they weren't against, top horses, but she stakes placed on the surface. The last time they ran her on dirt at the end of 2021, it was in a grade 1 race. She finished 4th. I mean, I feel like she's a better horse on the turf than she is on the dirt, but it's not like she doesn't have the credentials to be really, really tough in this race. I kind of prefer other horses. I won't be surprised when Eddie's New Dream runs well. She's just a really nice horse. The 5 is Taming the Tigress, and she's probably the horse to beat if you just want to base it off of her most recent dirt start. And as mentioned, that was the Betty Grable, 2 starts back in mid-November, and we'll take a look at the replay of the stretch run right now, and she just runs a really good race here. She had speed to get up on the pace. She didn't really have that much trouble taking over on the lead up the backstretch, and the pace was not fast. So in a lot of ways, she had every advantage in this race, and you're going to see her through the stretch here. That's Fun to Dream coming to take her on the top of the stretch, and she fights really gamely in here. I realized the pace was slow, so she had something left in the stretch here. You see those 2 horses sort of come together there a couple of times in the final 16th or so, but she fought very gamely there. That's a good horse that finally got by her at the end. As we already talked about, Fun to Dream came back to win a grade 1 and a grade 2 in her next 2 starts. So listen, it's a little bit of class relief based on that performance, and if she runs as well here, I guess she's going to be tough. The real problem with taking too short a price on her is it doesn't really feel like any of her other races, either on dirt or turf, give her a huge edge on this field. And maybe she just doesn't have such an easy time on the pace in here. I'm not going to knock her. I do feel like in a lot of ways she's the horse to beat in this race, but if she's the favorite, I didn't feel like you necessarily just had to default to her, and I just kind of wanted to try to beat her. So we'll put the picks up there now because I'm going to take a little shot against Taming the Tigress. I'm going to put the 1 Alice Marble on top. Third off the layoff, her turf form recently is really good, but I also really like her dirt form, and I like her running style for this race. I think she's going to be able to sit within range behind the leaders early in this race, and if she finishes as well in this race as she did when she won those first 2 dirt starts of her career, I think she can win this race and run these horses down. I went 1-5-4 in the Sunday race of the day. It's the Spring Fever Stakes at Santa Anita. It goes as race number 4 on Sunday. That approximate post time is 5 o'clock Eastern time. Good luck.